We move on to the next special address. This is from Mr. Sanjeev Sharma, currently based in Singapore, and he's the Senior Vice President and heads of Specialty Grains and Seeds business for Olam. Mr. Sanjeev has a rich experience of more than 25 years. In a career spanning across multiple geographies, he has handled various agri commodities and food products. Sesame business, for which he has been head since 2009, is a key part of his portfolio. Acute business skills completed by ability to work with stakeholders of different cultures and backgrounds gives him an edge in building, growing, and managing businesses. By education, Mr. Sanjeev Sharma is a mechanical engineer from PEC University of Technology, Chandigarh, and holds an MBA from IIM Lucknow. With this introduction, I request Mr. Sanjeev Sharma to deliver his special address on global sesame crop scenario for 2021. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Vatsa. So first of all, I would like to congratulate your organization for putting up such a nice interactive platform for all of us. It has given us an opportunity to come together and share our views. So congratulations to you on this. Is my screen visible? So on the slide 3, as I was mentioning, we can change the slide, please. We can go straight to 3. Right. So we'll be talking about the origins trade. What is the year 2021 crop overview has been till now, and 2021-22 crop estimates, a bit of a price trend, a bit of an idea on new season forward, and what could possibly happen in the season. Next slide, please. So what we have seen here, in the African trade, Africa continues to be the major origin. While I'll cover the other origins, but sesame will and is being continued to be governed by African trade. You need large farms, you need manual labor, which is only available in Africa. And for years, we have seen that Africa has been the biggest supplier. While we are seeing origination coming out from new places, which mechanized farming, etc., but still African dominates. So in Africa this year, we are seeing a bit of a downtrend. Ethiopia is going through its own civil issues, and apart from that, there is a reduction which could partly be attributed to those issues, partly attributed to other factors. Sudan had also started off well. We expected Sudan to be good, but then recently we are not estimating Sudan to be as good. And port closure over last 40 days, coupled with yesterday's forceful change of government in Sudan, that's kind of, again, putting Sudan in a bit of a dark spot as far as shipments are possible out of that country. Another big origin used to be Nigeria, which was always the price leader. Their cost of production was the lowest, and they would lead the price. But what has happened over a period is that the prices of other commodities which compete with sesame in that growing area have gone up much faster than the price of sesame. So people have changed, farmers have changed to as unrelated commodities as paddy as well. So this was a surprise for us when we talked to someone that no, sesame area is being eaten away by paddy. People cannot relate to it. But that's happening in that country. Mali, Burkina, Togo, we expect similar kind of a feedback. Nothing good, nothing is changing. The rest of the places we feel market is stable. But the major production areas of Sudan, Nigeria being slow, not going to produce as much, that is creating a bit of a problem here. So we see a supply side squeeze coming out of Africa. Okay. Another point to note was that Tanzania, Mozambique was building up. Over the last 4 or 5 years, they have really grown and become a very dominant player. But this year we've seen a bit of a slowdown, yet to be seen how it develops further. But let's park it for a while because that's not an immediate concern for us. Next slide, please. So these are the highlights which I just covered. Next one, please. Yes. Then the rest of the world, there were few more origins which became very popular. Last year, Brazil was really in the news for being able to produce good quantities, and everybody did give it a try. And everyone who was running a facility did give a try to Brazilian sesame for hulling, for sortex, for everything. So the jury is not yet out, but this year there seems to be a bit of a challenge that their crop is not as big. And if you couple it up with the other problem of high sea freights, that's creating a bit of an issue. While freight into China from most of African places continues to be good, freight out of Brazil is not so good. It's not so competitive. You know, Africa has that inherent advantage of being an import surplus country, so there are empty containers available. So shipment prices or the price of per container freight has been much, much lower out of Africa as compared to any other country. And that continues to be so even for this year. But this year, the difference becomes very, very stark. Another, from the production side, what we saw, India did not import, almost zero imports last year. But we don't expect the same situation to continue, given that India has its own shortage, and probably the European Union's or the hull demand would be much better than it was last year, because as we have seen that we are over the hill of ETO, and we are able to do some exportations out of India for ETO, for the hull seats. China again has a reduction. That's for their own consumption, and their consumption is going up. So overall, if you see from supply side, Africa has an issue. India, China, which are significantly large producers, while they may not be the large exporters, they have an issue. And Brazil is not going to be so active. All other small LATAM origins, Guatemala, Mexico, etc., are not reporting anything very great. At best, same as last year. And most of them are reporting some possible reduction. So next slide, please. So what happened? What has happened over the past few months? If we see, we were always talking about a big Chinese stock of 300,000, and then you were expecting all these new crops to another hemisphere to start. India was expected to be slow, but everyone else, Nigeria, Sudan, there were no bad news coming up. But come June, and we started hearing, 30th of June, we started hearing some news about China has an issue. And that's when price trend has just rallied up from here. From a price of 1,200, we just gone to almost 1,600 within no time. And not many of the trade has taken place at this time. It's more just driven by the sentiments. So in terms of absolute volumes contracted during this period, it's very less, but the price increase has been very, very high. That's a bit worrying for us right now, or for everyone who's into the trade, that this is too sudden a price, too sudden a jump right now. Next slide, please. Another common factor which we keep talking about is that people keep relating Chinese port stock as an indicator of where the prices would be. So this is, in our belief now, Chinese port stock and prices have no correlation. And in a very well interconnected world, even a person, even a small crusher sitting in China knows at what price yesterday's auction in Tanzania were, or how much was loaded out of Nigerian ports last month. So in that kind of a scenario, Chinese port is just a number. That number could be 300,000, but if you're expecting crop issues, then prices could go up, and that number could come down to as low as 100,000. And if you're expecting good arrivals, that will not impact the prices. Next slide, please. Yes. So what we are seeing in the new season, just summing up key places: China, a reduction; India, a reduction; Nigeria is a reduction; Sudan is a reduction, plus the events of yesterday. Ethiopia is a reduction. So the only place which is in northern hemisphere and which is reporting similar as last year is the Burkina, Mali, Togo region, the other West Africans as we also call it, and possibly Tanzania, Mozambique, but that will not impact the pricing now. So out of the 6 major possible growing areas, 5 are reporting some kind of problem. 1 is reporting stability. Next slide, please. So this is kind of a very clear indication that supply side, we will have constraints. If we evaluate the consumption story, we have seen China is doing better. Japan is likely to do better than last year. So in terms of demand, there is a strong demand that continues. What are the bullish factors that we see in this market? The biggest one we see is China, the price driver, which buys more than 1 million tons. And you take any parameter, the consumption has not reduced. You take a parameter of their importation, you take parameters of their retail sales, of their crushing efficiencies or utilizations, everything is high. Japan was building on to reducing some stocks in 2021, and 2022 they will have to buy more. So now this is the season when they have to buy more. Typically they have been carrying 4 to 6 months of inventory, and if they were to build up to that, they will need to import more. Indian crop shortage, so Indians are likely to import African for re-exports. Consumption story out of Europe will also come back. Last year we saw almost no tourist activities, but this year that's not going to happen. Things have started to change. Supply side African is slow. And then we keep seeing supply chain issues. And we'll also keep seeing a lot of disruptions that we are right now seeing in Sudan. We've seen that in Nigeria, and we don't know where else it could develop over the next few weeks. So a lot of bullish cues, more bullish cues in the market. But is that sufficient to say that this market is very, very bullish? There are equal number of bearish cues as well. One is this high stock in China, which at least gives a mental barrier to people that, okay, I have so much of a stock, I don't need to necessarily rush into and buy anything right now. No, if I need to pay something, I can pay $100 extra and I'll get the stock off the port. So that comfort is there, that I don't have to really commit myself at these high prices. I can, if worse comes to worse, I will have to pay higher, but my factory will not go dry. Another issue could be new waves or new variants could come and put a demand on put a cap. If something goes wrong with one of the major ports, the major port gets blocked for a few days, the whole supply chain disruption, the whole demand disruption could again take place. And we know that in many of the destinations, we are dependent on one big, large port. Supply pressure would be felt at some point of time. While we are saying there is a shortage, but suddenly that 100,000 tons which will come out of Nigeria in a few days, then 100,000 tons will come out of Burkina. You add it up with some good numbers coming out of Sudan, Ethiopia. All that crop has to find home in some trader's hand. All the traders cannot take that position. So that could put in some bearish sentiments in the market. Then find that there is a possibility, that Pakistan has been a very, very active player. That's a new player, and they've really gained a market share. So if they can ship something more, if they throw up some more surprises, then it's again a bearish factor that could come in. So overall, what we feel is that while yes, supply remains a little tight, but we expect supply disruptions may lead to some kind of volatilities in the market. There might be a couple of up and down movements in the market. We don't see it more as a one-way street right now. There is a possibility of things going up and down here. Next slide, please. So with that, we would like to thank everyone. Thanks, Sesame Info. Wish you everyone a successful and profitable Sesame season. Take care, stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sanjeev Sharma. It was an excellent overview of what's happening on the supply side as well as on the demand side. One aspect perhaps I would be more keen on learning from you is the impact of currencies. Uh, some of the currencies have been really volatile. What do you see going forward, the impact of currency on the market?
Right. So I think each of the currencies has to be looked at differently. When it comes to procurement side, when it comes to a currency depreciating or appreciating in an origin, the market is very, very fast to react. Market just covers up within 7-10 days at best. It could be even shorter than that. Market adjusts. Structurally, one currency which impacts the hard market is the Indian currency, because India is the lowest cost producer of hull seeds. And when the Indian currency goes stronger than or weaker, that impacts the hard market. And that takes time for everyone else. Everyone else is a price taker in this case. India is the price maker in this case. And that's one currency which impacts the flow, the trade, much more than any other currency. Other currencies are more or less, spot traded, immediately they get taken care of.
Right, sir. Thank you so much. It was really nice hearing you again. And you have very, very briefly, but very strongly put forward what you think as going forward the Sesame market scenario is. As I understand, 5 out of 6 origin, there are some supply constraints, except for MTB, which is likely to be neutral. On the demand side also, things are strong as it is today, with China still continuing to show good demand. Japan, showing good demand, and same is the case with Europe and US. So if there is a supply disruption, there could be volatilities in the market. This is the summary I take away. Thank you so much for your excellent special address. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a special address from Mr. Sanjeev Sharma. He's heading the Sesame division at Olam.